We're doing it. Here we are. We are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup. I am Ron Placone, your host. The date is March 27th. Can you believe it's almost April? Isn't that crazy? It's almost springtime. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am Ron Placone, your host for today. It is Wednesday, March 27th. In the year 2024. We got a really fun show for you today. So we're going to be talking about RFK's VP pick that hit the news. Americans are not supporting what's happening with Israel Palestine. America is not supporting Israel's genocide. We're going to break it down, and we also have some protest footage that was shot by Johnny F on the ones and twos and threes and fours. Also, strike participation in the United States. It is growing. We're going to take a deep dive into that. But first, how we're kicking off today. Smash the like button. That's first and foremost. Smash the like button. Share this. Tell your friends. Leave a super chat if you can. I'll be getting to all your chats at the end of the show today. I want to chat it up with you. First, we're going to be talking about what happened in Baltimore. Now, some of you may have done the same thing I did yesterday, and you may have checked with all your friends in Baltimore to make sure they were nowhere near the Francis Scott Key Bridge, because the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed when it was struck by a Maersk ship. We're going to watch that video. So there you see the power go out. And I believe it comes back and goes out again. Yep, there it is. Here it comes. It's kind of unbelievable to watch. I mean, there's a lot to take in with that, and I know that footage is from at night. It's kind of hard to tell, what exactly is happening there. But the ship is just there. It's losing power, then regaining power, and it's almost looks as if it's going towards. It almost looks like they're trying to hit the bridge. You know what I mean? I'm not implying that. It just looks so remarkable. We're just like, well, how in the world did this happen? Well, turns out the plot does indeed thicken thanks to some investigation by David Sirota and everyone over at The Lever. Let's go to the Rolling Stone piece, Colin. So this kind of thickens the plot here out in Baltimore. Cargo giant in Baltimore bridge collapse silenced whistleblowers. Feds sanctioned Maersk Line Limited for preventing its employees from reporting safety concerns to the U.S. Coast Guard. Okay, well, what were some of these? So there's another picture of the bridge, the aftermath there. So let's go through this and find out what some of these safety concerns were. On March 26th, before the sun rose above the Patapsco River, a container ship named Dali that was en route to Colombo, Sri Lanka, crashed into a support pillar of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. Yeah, and again, it almost looked like they just made sure they were positioned to hit it. The collision triggered the collapse of the 1.6-mile long structure, sending huge swaths of it into the river's dark waters. That's the video we just watched. By evening, 6 construction workers who had been in the middle of the bridge's span were presumed dead. The company that chartered the ship, Maersk Line Limited, has since come under scrutiny following the tragedy. Hours after the news broke, The Lever reported that 8 months prior, the Labor Department sanctioned the cargo giant for taking action against a sailor who previously reported unsafe working conditions while aboard a Maersk-operated boat. Okay, so what was reported here? The seaman had been a chief mate on the Safmarine Mafati, a Maersk-operated vessel, and reported several issues on board, including unrepaired leaks. That's crazy. That's good for a boat. Hey, do we have a leak? No biggie. We're just a boat. Here's another doozy. Unpermitted alcohol consumption on board. That's awesome. Because if you're navigating the frickin' ocean, a body of water we still don't even know the full depths of, one of the mysteries of the world in so many ways, and you need to be so careful upon Her Majesty, and you're thinking, I'm just operating a boat. I'm going to booze up here. All right. So alcohol consumption, inoperable lifeboats. It's not like this guy is reporting there were too many forks loaded in the utensil cabinet or something like that. Some sort of minuscule dude. Really, you had to report that? These are some pretty big pillars, folks. Leaks, unpermitted alcohol consumption, inoperable lifeboats, faulty emergency fire suppression equipment. He had been disciplined for not properly maintaining the logbook and failing to properly follow orders. That's amazing. That's amazing. So the sailor goes, hey guys, bad news. We have leaks that haven't been attended to. We have unpermitted alcohol consumption on board our ships. Our lifeboats aren't working, and the fire suppression equipment also not working. And they say, well, you didn't date this piece of paper right. That's amazing. So they disciplined him for not properly maintaining the logbook and failing to properly follow orders. What orders did he not follow? Hey, don't report the terrible stuff we're not doing. Before he was ultimately fired from the company. He later disputed these allegations and said they were in retaliation for reporting alcohol consumption on board the vessel. You're going to report us for boozing? Well, you messed up captain's log. The department found that Maersk had a policy that requires employees to first report their concerns to Maersk prior to reporting it to the Coast Guard or other authorities. Federal officials said there was reasonable cause to believe that the company's policy violated the 1984 Seamen's Protection Act, a statute that prohibits an employer from retaliating against maritime workers who report unsafe work conditions. The department called the policy repugnant to the act, and its order wrote that it creates a chilling effect because it dissuades employees from reporting any safety concerns directly to the U.S. Coast Guard and other authorities. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit, Colin. Mayor's Vice President of Labor Relations admits that the reporting policy requires seamen to report safety concerns to the company and allow time to abate the conditions before reporting to the Coast Guard, the report stated. Maersk was ordered by federal officials to pay the employee over $700,000 in damages and back wages and to reinstate him. The shipping conglomerate was also instructed to revise its policy to not prohibit seamen from contacting the Coast Guard. All right, so it seems like this person was reinstated, but it also seems like maybe, just maybe, these concerns they brought up were not really attended to, because guess what frickin' happened? And this falls in line with the same trend that we're seeing, where safety is thrown to the wind in favor of what? Well, in favor of profits. In favor of profits, in favor of padding the pockets, in favor of the shareholders. I mean, there was that headline that went viral the other week where Boeing has to draw the line between maintaining safety standards and making sure they have as much profit as possible. Meanwhile, planes are falling apart in the middle of the frickin' sky. Doors are literally flinging off of airplanes. Boats are crashing into bridges. Trains are derailing. And no one is held accountable, i.e. East Palestine. And who's the culprit? What's the culprit in every single one of these situations? Capitalists. Every single time. It is capitalism, capitalism, and capitalism. That's the big problem every single time. And here you have a situation where they're condemning the whistleblowers for saying, hey, our ships aren't safe. Our fire suppression isn't working. Our lifeboats are malfunctioning. People are drinking on the while operating the ship. Jeez. I mean, this is just a dystopian comic book in this case, or a dystopian movie. I don't know why I said comic book. Could also be a movie. But this is just nuts. And when you take a deep dive into these things, you realize, wow, we were all sitting on a fire cake. When the train derailed in East Palestine, remember what happened? Remember what we found out? Remember what we found out during the rail strike? That those trains are grossly understaffed. There's 2 people operating the entire rail line. They're on call for 80 hours at a time. They're away from home. They are working tired to the bone. Imagine maintaining a train for freaking 80 hours in a row. How alert do you think you would be? And we're finding out, oh, Boeing is just not taking safety precautions because they want to make sure the profits are higher. So, oh, well, your plane is falling apart in the middle of the frickin' sky. That's the point we've gotten to. And now we're finding, oh, yeah, a bunch of whistleblowers who were saying, hey, we're not maintaining, Maersk isn't maintaining proper safety procedures on board their ships. Oh, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that. That could cost us some money. Shut up. And now they literally wreck into a frickin' bridge. The Francis Scott Key Bridge is no more because of this. And yeah, I literally yesterday texted all of my friends who live in Baltimore and said, hey, you were nowhere near that bridge, right? It's just crazy. I mean, we are literally seeing the systems crumble all around us. Whew. Gives you pause, doesn't it? Just really gives you pause. So let's go over to RFK. Let's go over to RFK's VP pick. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced his VP pick, and it was, I know it was among his likely picks. It was on the list of people who he might pick. And let's just dive into it. Now, to start, you guys know me. I'm not a big fan of RFK. I've talked about that in many different capacities on this show and elsewhere. I'm not a fan of RFK. It amazes me that there are still people who do not see through this guy. He has been an establishment right-wing Democrat his entire career, never missed an opportunity to endorse a Clinton. He is funded by Wall Street. He has ties to the CIA. He is an imperialist. He does not support Medicare for all. He does not support climate action. He thinks the free market will solve it. He has no plans domestically or for labor. I don't see what people see in this guy. And you listen to his main pillars, it's just mostly a bunch of platitudes or just a bunch of distracting issues. Like he's all about border security now and things like that. So let's go to his VP pick. We'll go to the Politico piece, Colin. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. picks tech entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan as his vice president. Now, keep in mind, he was also considering Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback. He was also considering Jesse Ventura. He was considering Tulsi Gabbard. So quite a bunch. Quite a bunch out the gate, but this is the person he picked. So why did he pick this person? Well, let's take a dive and see if we can speculate some stuff. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. chose tech attorney and entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan to be his running mate. Shanahan, who has never run for office before, donated the maximum amount to Kennedy's campaign and $4 million to the chief super PAC, backing his bid to air a retro-themed Super Bowl commercial. We're going to get to that in just a minute, by the way. In addition to backing American Values 2024, she also gave $500,000 to another super PAC backing Kennedy, Common Sense PAC. This is the grassroots true leftists, you guys. Multiple super PACs, Wall Street money, big tech entrepreneurs giving him millions. This is the grassroots guy. Both donations were made through an LLC, Planeta Management. Kennedy said he was searching. Here's his criteria, by the way. I like this. This is fun. Kennedy said he was searching for a running mate who understood technology. Now, to be fair, when you look at some of our past presidents and VPs and nominees, that's actually not a bad thing to say, hey, it'd be cool if you understood technology. It was a little frightening in 2008 when John McCain admitted he didn't use a computer. We wanted the guy who doesn't use a computer to run the free world. So in fairness, I'll give you that. Understood technology. That's, boy, bare minimum, but does need to be said, apparently. Government agencies' vulnerability to corruption. Yeah, no kidding, but okay. The need for secure borders. You gotta freaking be kidding me. Really, dude? That's your... And an athlete. What the hell does that have to do with anything? But that's RFK's criteria. I mean, this is amazing. So that is why I'm proud to introduce you to the next Vice President of the United States, my fellow lawyer, a brilliant scientist, technologist, a fierce warrior mom, Nicole Shanahan. Shanahan was raised in Oakland by a mother who was a Chinese immigrant and a white American father who suffered from mental illness. Tickets for the announcement of the event were sold for $2, $24, or $500. It's, in each case, they're too expensive. Kennedy has been searching for a vice presidential candidate to join his independent bid since quitting the Democratic Party primary last October. The short list was wide-ranging, including NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers, motivational speaker Tony Robbins, Senator Rand Paul, and ex-Democratic Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard. Now that he's named the 38-year-old Shanahan as his running mate, the campaign can begin collecting ballot access signatures in about 20 more states. Shanahan said she's passionate about fighting chronic disease in the U.S. by blah, 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 as well as doing different studies on pharmaceuticals and vaccines. So basically, this Nicole Shanahan person, to sum it all up in a nutshell, this person, A, agrees with his anti-vaccine views, and B, gave him a ton of money, gave him millions of dollars, and did his little Super Bowl commercial. So basically, she bought her way into the gig. Basically, this is just RFK saying, hey, you gave me millions, you ran this commercial that he had nothing to do with, yet it was his pinned tweet for a while. He had nothing to do with it, and he apologized for it, but he kept it as his pinned tweet. So let's go to this piece by More Perfect Union. Now, More Perfect Union put out this video kind of doing a larger snapshot of the RFK campaign. And what I'm curious to, and let's go ahead and make a poll, Colin. Today's poll is going to be, who do you think RFK would, quote, take more votes away from, Trump or Biden? Now, let's keep in mind, RFK, there's some people, the guy's got a following, can't deny that. There's some people who they would not vote if he was not on the ballot. There's other people who they would vote for Biden otherwise. Other people would vote for Trump otherwise. So there's this big argument about, like, who would he take more votes away from? So I'm posing it to you guys. Who do you think he would, quote, take more votes away from, Trump or Biden? And we're going to go ahead and watch this More Perfect Union analysis to kind of spark the thoughts here. So let's go ahead and play that video, Colin.
Despite being the only candidate in this race who has graced the cover of the Tortoise magazine, RFK Jr. probably won't be our next president. But for the deep-pocketed donors funding his effort to get on the ballot in key states, that's not really the plan. So what is the plan? And who exactly is bankrolling RFK Jr.'s presidential push? It turns out the answer has a lot more to do with Trump than putting a Kennedy back in the White House.
2024 is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
American Values 2024, the super PAC backing Kennedy, dropped a cool $7 million for the spot, which about 124 million people saw, or 124 million more eyeballs than that magazine about turtles ever got. And propping up American Values 2024 is a large group of big donors. Kennedy is just the face emerging from the trench coat, but he's on the shoulders of a bunch of millionaires and billionaires who are driven by one goal: to get RFK Jr. on the ballot in all key states across the country. Doing a majority of the legwork here is the super PAC's biggest donor, Timothy Mellon. In fact, more than half of the $38 million raised by American Values this cycle has come from Timothy Mellon alone. Mellon, who hails from the 34th richest family in America and likened anti-poverty programs to slavery, has long been a significant Republican donor. He's given tens of millions to Republican congressional super PACs. He's generously funded Trump's super PAC, Make America Great Again, Inc., to the tune of $16.5 million over the span of just 2 years. He was even Trump's top donor in 2020, and it doesn't look like he's going to stop tossing money at Trump anytime soon. His last donation of $5 million to the pro-Trump PAC came on January 30th, 2024. Just 22 days prior, he sent the same amount to the pro-Kennedy PAC, making it pretty clear that Timothy Mellon doesn't want Kennedy. He knows Kennedy can spoil a Biden win, so he's keeping him afloat.
Logic is plotting and unoriginal and far too slow to be useful in an emergency because it's slow to accept reality and it's burdened by judgment.
It would be in this context that DeBecker would donate more money to Kennedy than any other cause he's ever supported. In total, he's given $10 million to American Values, although nearly all of it was later returned to him. It's an unprecedented arrangement where DeBecker loans the super PAC money and they refund any unused funds. So what's in it for DeBecker? Kennedy's campaign has paid DeBecker's security firm $1.9 million for security services and travel expenses. DeBecker is the biggest line item for Kennedy's campaign. Perhaps one of the more mysterious sources of funding for the pro-Kennedy super PAC is coming from a family office called Planeta Management LLC. The business, which was registered on August 18, 2022, has given American Values 2024 $4 million. So who's behind the donation? On filing paperwork, the CEO's name and address field were left blank. In other words, we have no idea who the third biggest donor to Kennedy's bid is.
So I wanted to share that, not necessarily because I fully agree with it, but because I just thought it was an interesting analysis. So I am not convinced that RFK is going to pull the most votes from Biden. I think that RFK is also going to pull a lot of votes from people who otherwise would have voted for Trump, especially since, again, look at what he's really highlighting right now. Border security. There's other ones too, but border security is the big one. But he's highlighting all these things. I mean, if you look at his 10 pillars, a lot of things are more things that are of concern of people who would be more likely to vote for Trump than Biden. So I'm not so convinced that this guy is going to pull a ton of votes from Joe Biden, especially with you have the way his own family has distanced themselves from him. And that whole thing in the Super Bowl, they wanted to make, the people who made that ad wanted to make it out like, oh yeah, he's another Kennedy, he's this, he's that. They wanted people to go vote for him based solely off of name recognition. But I feel like that is slowly but surely withering away for him. You're not going to have a ton of people. I mean, you will have some people. But I don't think you're going to have a large margin of people who are just going to vote for him out of name recognition, because people who like the Kennedys follow the Kennedys, and people who follow the Kennedys know that most of the Kennedys don't like RFK. So, and when I say this, I'm not saying that I agree with the rest of the Kennedys on a lot. I don't. They're very much Democratic establishment. I'm just saying, they tried to make that association in that Super Bowl video, and I don't think it was successful. At least not on a wide scale. So, so it's interesting to me that they're making it out like, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of people that like Trump, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to make him the spoiler, but it's like, well, or they just like him as a candidate. I mean, you look at all, his anti-vaccine views, which usually resonate more with Trump voters. We got to be tough on the border views, which resonate more with Trump voters. His pro-genocide views, which that's across the aisle, baby. There's bipartisan support there. That's Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But so I guess my big question is, and that's sort of where the poll's going, is like, well, is it that they're trying to help Trump win, or that they just genuinely like him as a candidate? And I think it, I think it might be a little bit of both, but I think it's also like, who's he going to take more votes from? Is it going to be Trump, or is it going to be Biden? I want to hear what you guys think first, and then I'm going to say what I think. Because I think the short answer is I think it will be both. I don't think it's just going to be one or another. But who's it going to be more of? who's he going to quote unquote take more votes from? Trump or RFK? Christina here is proving my point. Christina says, I voted Trump, but really like RFK Jr. There you go. And by the way, Christina, thanks for tuning in. Obviously our politics are different, but I appreciate you checking this out, and I appreciate your input. And feel free to share what is it that you like about him, because I think that. Well, anyway, I'll let you guys fill out the poll, and then we'll talk about it more. Let's go to the next interesting little piece of the puzzle here that I believe is also funded by American values. It turns out RFK Jr. in his presidential run is hitting the cinemas. Let's play the movie preview, Colin. By the way, Lucy says hi.
We're talking Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
This is one of America's most prominent anti-vaxxers.
He's ventured deep into conspiracy theories.
Mr. Chairman, we respectfully requested that you rescind Mr. Kennedy's invitation.
They do not want him to speak.
Federal judge sentenced environmental lawyer Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to 30 days in jail.
One sec, please. Bye-bye.
That has the graphics of like a Scientology propaganda video. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it totally has the vibes of a Scientology propaganda video. By the way, guys, Lucy is a little clingy because, as some of you may already know, I was in Pittsburgh recently, which, by the way, shout out to everyone who came out to the Pittsburgh screening. It was awesome. We had a sold-out screening, and there was some Status Coup fam in the audience. So the streak continues. The streak is still going strong, y'all. There's been Status Coup listeners and viewers at every show I've done the past 2 years, and it's still going strong because there were some Status Coup people at the Pittsburgh show. Let's continue it. So Lucy's a little, I'm petting. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm petting her, and she's been a little clingy because I was out of town, but I'm back now. Anyway, so go ahead and fill out the poll. And you know what? I'm thinking about, can we do 2 polls, Colin? Is that possible? Is that a possibility?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, we can't? Oh,
Wait,
man.
well,
okay. Because I was going to say, let's do a second poll. And the second poll was going to be, should we freaking watch the movie live on Status Coup? Because that would be like, what if we watch the movie live, like Mystery Science Theater style?
We could do if I had to guess, they'll probably deem people who do that, but we could do a Discord watch party or something like that.
I'd be tempted. I think that would be kind of fun, watching the RFK Jr. movie. I mean, it depends on how long it is. If it's like 3.5 hours, I'm like, I ain't doing that. I'm sorry.
They're gonna Peter Jackson it.
That's just brutal. But if it's like short, I don't know. That could be fun. Well, unfortunately, we won't be able to do that poll. But yeah, a lot of you are kind of thinking you wouldn't really want to watch it anyway. But yeah, vote in the poll that we currently have. So yeah, my take is, look, I think RFK, my overall take on RFK, and look, the guy has done some good environmental legal work years ago. I always acknowledge that. I always say, hey, tip of the hat for that. Now he thinks the free market can solve climate change. I just don't see what people see in this guy. And I try to be diplomatic, because I mean, I still know people in my personal life who think this guy is just something he isn't. And look, I've fallen for things in the past. I fell for Tulsi Gabbard some years ago. I thought Tulsi Gabbard was something she wasn't. Now, I didn't support I voted for Bernie, but I liked Tulsi Gabbard. I wanted her to be Bernie's running mate. I thought very highly of her. I spoke very highly of her. And I was completely wrong about who she was. But here's the thing, though. By the time Tulsi really revealed her hand, I was off the ship. I feel like RFK has taken off his mask entirely many times over. And there are still people who are like, no, he's going up against the establishment. He is the establishment. He's part of the biggest political dynasty maybe in the history of the country. He has more resources and power than any of you could ever imagine. And he has Wall Street. He gets Wall Street funding. He's funded by super PACs. He has ties to Wall Street, ties to the CIA. You know, has been a Democratic insider most of his life, but decided he was just able to get a better 15 minutes elsewhere. He wanted more of the spotlight. And this was his best way to get it. So, yeah. I mean, I don't get why more people just aren't seeing through this guy by now. So let's go to the Status Coup footage. Now, this is some footage from Johnny F on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, where some cops were doing some not so great stuff at the protests for Palestine. Let's go to that footage, Colin.
He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing, bro. He assaulted people. He assaulted people. You assaulted people. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Your boy over there putting his hands on him. Don't do it in the black. He's not no police officer. No, he's not. He's not no police officer. Can you get him? He's stabbing people. Put your hands on him. You put my hands on him. Did you see me? No, did you see me with my hands on him? I saw you. Did you see me with my hands on him? Or did I have my hands on him? Did I have my hands on him? Or did I have my hands on him? You cannot put your hands on him. This guy's attacking people. He's not the victim. Let's go. Let go. Let her go. Put your hands behind your back. Let her go! Behind the barrier! Right fucking now! Let's go! No, cuff him up! Don't push me! Don't cuff him up! I didn't do shit! Cuff him up! Cuff him up! Hey, that's it! Cuff him up! No, it's all good. Put your hands behind your back! Put your hands behind your back! Put your hand behind your back! Put your hand behind your back! I'm behind the motherfucking barrier, sir! Sir, I'm behind the barrier. I didn't do anything. I'm behind the barrier. I'm behind the barrier.
Wow. So if you weren't sure what was going on there, and by the way, shout out to John Farina for capturing this. The gentleman in the orange tie was an undercover cop. You saw that later as he was arresting people. And he was, basically instigating. And then the cops came and just started, assaulting people, pretty much. I mean, those people were just protesting. And, they just started arresting people. And in the last situation there, that gentleman was literally behind the barricade, and they still just went and arrested him for demanding that they release somebody. That's all he was doing. You can't just arrest somebody for that, but that's what they're doing. And this is Eric Adams' police force. Well, gee, you made a cop mayor. what do you think's going to happen? New York City, they made a cop mayor, and look what's happening. It's even more authoritarian than it was prior. This is the United States, folks, and it continues to get worse. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who took it upon himself to shoot protesters, is speaking at institutions of higher learning now. That's happening. The guy who just murdered some protesters, he's speaking at an institution of higher learning. For those of you who don't know what the Overton window is, the Overton window is basically what the barriers are for acceptable conversation and acceptable policy discussions in a country. And you look at our Overton window in the United States. Not too long ago, Medicare for All was in it. It no longer is. Free college was in it. It no longer is. Bold climate change action was in it. Not so much anymore. What's in it now instead? Instead, we have a bunch, we got to make sure our borders are more secure because they're not secure enough because of a bunch of paranoia. And now everything's about, don't get vaccines. Our culture has really, really declined. And there's an authoritarian tinge to all of this. And it keeps getting worse and worse. And it is really frightening. You know, the way I see it, we had an opportunity, and I wanted to share this today. And in fact, I forgot to send it to Colin. I regret it, but I'm gonna just kind of pull it up and read it to you because I think from a theme standpoint, it really emphasizes how kind of where we're at right now, because this can all be traced back to the pandemic and how the pandemic in many ways was a moment where so many people looked around and said, wait a second, the world doesn't have to be this way. We are driving off a cliff. Well, now the truck that was heading off the cliff is stuck in neutral. And we have an opportunity to turn around and not head off the cliff anymore. Well, now we're going full throttle off the cliff again. So this is from ACAB the Arab on Twitter. I thought this was a very well written thread on just an overall take on just the past 4 years and counting. I want to add that when, not if, the next pandemic arrives, we will get none of this again. This that they're referring to is how we we had lockdown and stuff like that. Because the ruling class learned their lesson. People had a moment to breathe and realize that the world doesn't have to be this way. Now, that's just referring to the pandemic just shutting things down. And this person's not necessarily saying, that's a good thing. They're just saying that was one of the effects of it all. We all just had a moment to look around and go, wait a second, it doesn't have to be this way. People had a moment to breathe and realize that the world doesn't have to be this way. They don't want us to remember that feeling. All that happened during the beginning period of the pandemic scared the ruling class. They saw how much solidarity we're capable of. Remember at the beginning when there was this sense of we're all in it together, when people were protesting for Black Lives Matter, when people were protesting George Floyd, when people were working together, trying to get through this. Remember that? Lucy remembers it. I don't know if you could hear her meowing. She's a little wiry today, folks, because she missed me, Anyway, Trump's mistake was trying to crush it quickly. Remember when Trump put the country under martial law in D.C.? Remember that? A lot of people try to forget that happened. It frickin' happened. Biden learned it must be done slowly with much better propaganda. And look around you. It worked on a lot of people. The next pandemic could have people bleeding out of every hole, and they will never give people a chance to pause again. because in that breath, too much reflection happens. They need us to be barely surviving. That's why you don't have living wages. They need us to be hanging on by a thread, and they need us to be desperate. Otherwise, a war economy doesn't work. What does every empire in the history of ever have in common? A desperate populace. So all mitigations that they got rid of during this pandemic won't even be offered when the next one comes. I think that's very true. They do not care how many people die or become disabled. And I think that is the damn truth. They've made that very clear. Capitalism comes first. Your life is not even an afterthought. And I think that's an excellent snapshot of where we're at now. And we had a chance to kind of turn a corner. We had a chance to be like, you know what? We need to really rethink what it means to have a society. And instead of living the way we're living, we need to build a society focused on human needs and being stewards to the earth. Hey, there's a name for that. It's literally called eco-socialism. It's a freaking thing. But you know what? Instead of taking a populist left turn, we took a fake populist right one. That's what happened. And it can, and probably will, but hopefully doesn't. It can and likely will get a lot worse. Because there's really, you know, there's an information war happening. And I mean it in the metaphorical sense. There's an information war happening. And we being the left, are losing. And we're losing bad. And folks, I'm tired of losing. I don't know about you. But I am tired of losing. All right, so let's go to a little bit of good news. So first of all, let's go ahead and show that poll. The poll that indicates that most people want a ceasefire. So Americans have shifted to disapproval of Israel military action in Gaza. So now you see the majority of American, only 36% of Americans approve of Israel's actions in Gaza. Why is Biden so eager to support something that the majority of Americans are against? Not just Biden, by the way, but Trump too. They both support these things. And why do they support it? Well, because our money is bought by military interests. Our government is bought by military interests. But that's a little bit encouraging, folks, that even though, and again, can I say without beyond a shadow of a doubt that the United States is the most war propagandized nation on earth? No, I can't say that for sure. I can say if there is a more war propagandized nation than the United States, I have not been there, and I have no desire to go there. So the United States is definitely among the most war propagandized nations in the world. And yet, despite that, most Americans are against what Israel is doing in Palestine. A war that is, well, not necessarily a war. It's a genocide, not a war, but a genocide that is supported by the United States government. And most Americans are against it. Most Americans are calling for a ceasefire. Most nations in the world are calling for a ceasefire. Most Americans are calling for a ceasefire. The Pope is calling for a ceasefire. By the way, isn't it interesting? You know, I thought about this. So I was raised Catholic. I'm not a religious person, but I was raised Catholic. And it's so interesting to me. People like Joe Biden, Tim Kaine, you know, people who were also raised Catholic, they'll use their Catholic background when it comes to being wishy-washy on abortion or something like that. They'll be like, well, you know, I was raised Catholic and blah, blah, blah. But they never mention that when it comes to war and peace. When it comes to, because, you know, one of the things I do agree with the Pope on fairly frequently is the Pope is anti-war most of the time. Typically, the Pope is anti-war. And that's one of the things where I'm like, yep, because I'm anti-war 100% of the time. I'm already against the next war, folks. Next war, I'm already against it. So it's interesting that it only goes that one way. It only goes, well, I do support a woman's right to choose, but I was raised. They'll do that. But when it comes to, hey, the Pope's calling for a ceasefire, why aren't you? You're Catholic. Your religious leader is calling for a ceasefire. Why? That part doesn't count. Keep it out of politics when it's convenient for us. So interesting. So interesting. All right. So let's go to another piece of good news to round out today. This is a little bit uplifting. Let's go to the More Perfect Union thread, please, Colin. Check out this number, folks. This is a little bit of beauty. Strikes by union workers jumped 280% in 2023. Let's make it 500 in 2024. More than 458,000 workers were involved in major strikes last year. When we say the labor movement is surging, this is what we mean. And that data doesn't even capture all of last year's strike actions. The Bureau of Labor Statistics only tracks activity that includes 1,000 plus workers. So when 750 student workers at Temple University went on a powerful 6-week strike, that didn't even count. Let's go ahead and scroll down. See if there's more to the thread. Is that it? All right. That's pretty good. I'll take it. That's amazing. 280%. That is encouraging. And look, we are also seeing an upsurge in prices. I mean, when you look at how much more rent is, how much more groceries are, everything in our lives, cars, flights, you name it, everything in our lives is increasing in price, and it's increasing in a way that typically takes about 15 years. The upsurge that we've seen, the price increase that we've seen, price gouging is the best way to put it. The price gouging we've seen in the past couple years usually takes about 15 years. But we're seeing it now. And by the way, it could get worse. It could get worse, especially in the food chain. If Kroger and Albertsons is allowed to merge, we're going to see a lot of food insecure people in this country. We're going to see a lot more people unable to get food because those grocery prices are going to get even worse. And people are already choosing between rent and groceries. It's going to get worse. And by the way, the only thing stopping that right now is the FTC. And you guys know me. I don't like Joe Biden at all. I like Joe Biden as far as I can throw him. But got to give credit where it's due. Biden's FTC appointment is stopping that from happening as of right now. So, yeah. It's a rough situation right now, folks. It's the only way to put it. But the working class is fighting back. And folks, that's the only way we turn this tide. 280%. Let's make it 500 for 2024. That's where the hope is. The hope's not in some presidential election. The hope's not in, some platitudes uttered by someone in Congress. The hope is not in some narcissist like RFK enjoying their 15 minutes with a vanity presidential run. Hope lies in workers and protesters standing side by side, going on strike, and saying we're not going to take this anymore. And the American people saying we're not going to take this economy of war anymore. We're done with these wars. End the wars now. And not stopping. And I know it seems like we're pushing a boulder up a hill, and in many ways we are. But we're all we got, folks. We are all we got. So that's encouraging to see that kind of strike effort, and hopefully it is even more in hopefully it's even more and more in 2024. Let's go to the super chats. Mark Balmer, what's up? How is everything up in Canada? Hang on, I need a little water here. Thank you for the super sticker, Mark Balmer. I appreciate it very much. I hope all is well up in Canada. You know what? Before we continue with the chat, I'll mention some events I got coming up. First of all, thank you everybody who came to the Pittsburgh screening. We were sold out. It felt awesome. And of course, there were some Status Coup fam. there. Well, Status Coup fam, we got another challenge. April 14th, Los Angeles, California. Don't wait. Get your tickets. April 14th, Los Angeles. A show, screening of my movie Left It Wall, and a Q&A after. A bunch of cast members are going to be there. Who's all going to be there, you ask? Eddie Pepitone will be there. Graham Elwood, Anastasia Washington, Sarah K. Godot, myself. So we're going to have a big old stand-up show, a screening of the film, and a Q&A after. It's going to be an awesome event. April 14th, Los Angeles, California. June 8th, Idlewild, California. If you're looking for an excuse to spend a weekend in Southern California, come hang out with us in the mountains and come to the show screening and Q&A in Idlewild, California. Or if you can't make the LA screening, gives you a good excuse to go to the mountains for a night. That's June 8th. Tickets and all information at ronplacone.com. And also, the next episode of Frank Azzurri airs today. Colin, what time is that going to be happening?
Be same time, 7 Eastern time.
7 Eastern, folks. Frank Azzurri is the vertical series. It's a scripted series that myself and Andrew Saxon will make. And this is episode 5. The first 4 episodes, we've dealt with climate change, labor history. We've dealt with soccer and politics. It's a fun series. Please check it out. I know a lot of you have not checked it out yet. Please check it out. It airs at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight. It's episode 5. It's a short show, so you can catch up on all the episodes real quick. You can go ahead and binge it. And our first season is going to be 8 episodes.
And there's a playlist for it as well. So it's easy to click on it and just go through them. You don't have to dig through all our other videos. And also, real quick, breaking news. You can take this news however you want. Former Senator Joe Lieberman has just died.
Oh, okay.
There's some news.
All right. Thank you for that. Well, Joe Lieberman passed away, and you ever have one of those moments where you hear like a parent in your head from when you were a kid? I'm having one of those moments right now. And when I was a little kid, one of the things my mom would say to me, if you don't have anything nice to say, sometimes you shouldn't say anything at all. Also, she once told me not to speak ill of the dead. So getting this news in real time, those are the things going through my head right now. So all I will say in regards to Joe Lieberman's passing is rest in peace. Can't really think of anything else to say. And if I'm being honest, can't think of anything nice to say. Not trying to sound mean, just being honest. So I don't really have anything nice to say there. I'm responding in real time like y'all. And yeah, Joe Lieberman passed away. He was, I think he was, how old was he? Let me go ahead and, he was 82. That's it's a decent life as far as years go. All right. So yeah, let's go back to the super chat. Thank you, Mark Ballmer. I hope all is well up in Canada. Tyler, what's up, man? How are you? Love the work you do. Thank you so much for that, Tyler. Tony D, what's going on, man? How you been? Can you believe people blame this on the DEI rather than deregulation, the real problem? Yeah, I can believe it, and it's a damn shame. Deregulation has gotten us to this point, especially in the airlines industry. They've been deregulating since 1976, and it got us to this point. So smart, so stupid. I love profit. What's up, Chris? How are you? Thank you for this. Happy Ron's Day, everyone. Love to Lucy. Thank you for that. Lucy is, she was in very good hands, by the way. Our house sitter did a wonderful, wonderful job. It was a friend of ours. And I think she misses our friend, by the way, because last night, so our friend, we got back, my wife and I got back on Monday, and our friend didn't fly out until Tuesday. And so we like he was visiting California because his family's from here and we were going. So it was a win-win that he was able to watch Lucy for us. And then it gave him a free place to stay. It was a win-win, but there was a day overlap. So we were like, well, dude, you're welcome to stay with us. Just, you can crash on the couch, whatever. So he crashed on the couch in the living room. And Lucy was like, late last night, she was like kind of going berserk in the living room. I think she was looking for him. And he wasn't there. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, Lucy's good. Lucy is good. So thank you very much for that, Chris. Oh, and by the way, Chris, thanks for, Chris was at the last virtual screening of Left at Wall that we did. So thank you very much for checking out my movie, Chris. I appreciate it very, very much. Let's see here. So yeah, let me go through it one more time. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, So Smart, So Stupid. Thank you, Tony D. Thank you, Tyler Hackner. Thank you, Mark Balmer. And then there's a few things I actually kind of wanted to respond to that some people were saying in the chat. Let me go ahead and try to find those before we... Well, actually, while I'm doing that, what are the results of the poll, Colin? Colin, are you there? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I was just ending it right now. So results with 123 votes is for who do you think RFK Jr. would take more votes away from? 53% say Trump and 46% say Biden.
Oh, so I was in the majority. I think Trump, too. I think he will actually take more votes from Trump than for Biden. What do you think?
I actually agree. I think he's going to take more votes from Trump than Biden. I think it could be within this where it's within that 5-point up and down statistical bubble. But I think, yeah, overall, from the beginning, his main support has been not necessarily Trump based, but a little bit more right wing based. And he was just at the middle point starting to get left wing people, I feel like, and then probably lost a lot from both with his Gaza stuff. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, totally. I think Trump, and the reason I think Trump is because I think that RFK Jr. is running a terminally online campaign because I do think it's a vanity project. And I think that he loves, he basically just loves his 15 minutes. So he clings to all these terminally online talking points and all these terminally online hot button things. That's just what he's been doing for a while now. Like, oh, all of a sudden RFK was into crypto, et cetera, et cetera. The contrarian left, a lot of them are seeing that, well, most never fell for him in the first place. Some did. A lot of them are seeing through him now, largely because of his horrific Gaza stance. But the contrarian right, still all about him. So he's going to lean into that. He already is, because all of a sudden the border is such a big deal to him. So yeah, he will end up taking more votes away from, I think, he'll end up taking more votes away from Trump than from Biden. But I'm trying to find the comment I wanted to respond to here, and I'm having trouble scrolling and finding it. But somebody said that, you know, they like RFK because he isn't Biden and he isn't Trump. And gee, Cornel West is also not Biden or Trump. Jill Stein is also not Biden or Trump. So I'm not telling you who to vote for. You want to go vote for RFK? Go for it. You want to vote for Biden? Go for it. You know, like whatever. It's not my place to tell people who to vote for. But for people who, you know, deflect any criticisms of RFK and just say, well, he's not Biden or Trump. Like, well, he's not the only candidate meeting that criteria. So, you know, I mean, if you can't defend RFK against the criticisms, you know, and he's your guy, well, maybe he's not that great of a candidate. If I was supporting a candidate and people brought criticisms of him to me, and my only response was, well, they're not this other person, and that was all I had, I'd be like, well, gee, there's other people who aren't, you know? So that's what I think. That is what I think. Oh, here we go. Sense of RFK strength is not being Trump. All right. Well, again, Biden's not Trump. Jill Stein's not Trump. Cornel West isn't Trump. You know. Who I vote for is really going to depend on how many states Dr. West can get on the ballot in. I'll be honest. I have a feeling it's not going to go so well. I like Dr. West. I really do. I have so much respect for the guy. But I've been very disappointed with the way he's run his campaign. And I really wish he would join forces with the Green Party and Jill Stein. I really wish somehow they could just, bury the hatchet or whatever it is that they need to do. I know it's not going to happen, but I really wish that could happen, because I think if it did, we'd actually have a chance at getting 5%. But yeah, I just think Cornel West does not really have a clear path to much ballot access. And the whole situation with the Green Party was really, really tragic, because they had to, the Green Party was stuck in a situation where they had to run somebody. I mean, when people are like, oh, well, what's the Green Party had to run somebody, and they had to do it immediate, because if they didn't, they would have lost all the ballot access they worked so hard to get. Millions of dollars worth of ballot access that the Green Party just had, that Cornel West said, well, I'm not running with the Green Party. So the Green Party was like, well, what do we do? So the whole situation bums me out a lot. And yeah, so it's rough. It's rough. We'll have plenty more time to talk about the election, that's for sure. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Please check out Frank Azzurri at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Please, please, please. I promise you'll enjoy it. Tickets for Los Angeles and Idlewild, ronplacone.com. Thank you again to everyone who submitted their super chats. Mark Ballmer, Tyler Hackner, Tony D, So Smart, So Stupid, and, of course, Chris Garrett. And this is Ron Placone for Status Coup.